Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Rotoworld Football Show, Thursday, December 4th, 2025. It is the final week of the fantasy football regular season. I wrote this approximately 400 times in my rankings article this week. Probably should have found a different phrase to use occasionally, but it's a really, really important week. A lot of really important games, a lot of really bad games. 2 games not happening because 4 teams on bye in week 14. I'm not hung up on this at all.
No, you're not.
I haven't mentioned it absolutely constantly on the show. And even people who agree with me are probably like, all right, let's move on. They're on bye. It's an immutable fact. You can't change it, Pat. Please talk about something else. And to you, I say, I'm not even mad about it, okay? It's the Bengals at the Bills, one of the highest total games the entire season. And then we kind of got like 2 teams desperately trying not to choke away the AFC South, the Colts and the Jaguars. The Rams, sure, this is the year the Rams are just for real. Like, there's no smoke and mirrors, and they lose to the Panthers. So now they have to beat the Cardinals. Bears, Packers, a loaded slate, but that's the real football, the pro football, I should say. We would be remiss. We didn't talk about amateur athletics, even though you can't even make that joke anymore since they are now paid in the open. But everyone talking about one of these amateur athletic coaches, Kyle, leaving their job for another job. It needs no introduction. So just lay out what's going on and what's your take on it.
Brian Hartline to, I believe, USF, Ohio State wide receiver coach. Also, I'm pretty sure a play caller recruits wide receivers like no other. Maybe some of that's Ryan Day. Maybe some of that's other part. I mean, money is also part of that. But man, this is such a brutal but well-deserved loss. Like, Brian Hartline obviously deserves to go on, and he'll be making millions in the SEC within 3 or 4 years.
Where did he go? I honestly had not heard this yet, that he was leaving wide receiver U. This is not a joke, not a bit.
I thought you knew the bit I was going
with.
Right out of the gate. Yeah, he got hired as the head coach of USF. They lost, I believe, their head coach to Auburn, if I remember.
To Auburn, yeah. Auburn, the 5th time Auburn hires a directional Florida school coach is going to work, all right? I promise.
Look, it hurts, right? This is the talk of the town. This is the coaching move everyone can't stop talking about in terms of college football, and it hurts. But like, Hartline deserved it. He's been putting in work for the Buckeyes. So now that segment's wrapped up, on to the show.
Hartline, wide receiver U. Ohio State is in shambles. Ryan Day, of course, in due time will it be exposed as an absolute giga fraud. Everyone knows it still. Kyle has not forgotten his home address.
Buckeyes fans are chief among the, we all know Ryan Day is a fraud. They're like leading the charge at some points.
By the way, Lane Kiffin did nothing wrong, right? Lane Kiffin also, you just hate to see someone be such a victim. You just hate to see what they've done to the man, Denny. And he doesn't deserve this. Lane does not deserve what is happening to him that he fully, out of whole cloth, created himself. He does not deserve it.
He's been treated very unfairly. In fact, I don't think anyone's ever been treated more unfairly than Lane Kiffin. Who apparently, here's what I've learned about Lane Kiffin. I'm not a huge college guy, as you know. He did hot yoga at his at Ole Miss, and he was a menace, terrorized the class. He would control the temperature of the room and disturb class with body odor situations and. The ladies did not appreciate his presence there, so they're glad he's gone. I also found it very funny, the imagery of him fleeing on a tarmac, running to a plane while fans of Ole Miss are screaming at him obscenities, obviously, at him as he's fleeing like a deposed dictator.
Yeah, he was the last U.S. soldier out of Vietnam. I mean, if you don't know what I'm talking about, look it up. You need, first off, read a history book. You out there who have not done.
He wanted to stay too. Look, he wanted to stay in the trenches. He, in his goodbye post, was like, I tried to coach both teams. I thought they would let me coach both teams at one time, but the stupid NCAA thought that was a bad idea.
Yeah.
He hinted at this in his post. He was like, I want to stay on for a few more weeks. Come on, man.
So it's illegal to coach teams now?
By the way, my favorite piece of fall, we have to move on, but not a joke. This is actually not a joke. Paul Feinbaum has decided not to run for U.S. Senate in Alabama because of this. Actually not a joke. I said after witnessing that kind of betrayal, he felt he could not betray his listeners. We cannot betray our listeners by going so much longer without talking about week 14, end of the fantasy regular season. The playoffs are nigh, playoff berths on the line. Nationwide, Kyle Dvorchak clinging To the most remote of AFC playoff odds, the Bengals venture north for a grudge match with the Bills. Boy, do Bills and Bengals fans hate each other. By the way. One of the weirdest, most random rivalries. Not that random, but boy, do they hate each other. The Bills are operating as 5.5-point home favorites. Did we already see enough in Week 13 to immediately reinsert Joe Burrow into the QB1 ranks, Kyle? And why is the answer yes?
Oh, I thought you were going to say why is the answer no. I thought you were going to be a hater. Yeah, no, the answer is very clearly yes. Was it a perfect game from Burrow in his first game back? No, obviously it wasn't. They specifically struggled in the red zone a lot, but in terms of the eye test, he looked like Joe Burrow in terms of the spreadsheets. PFF charted him with the league leading in terms of Week 13, a league leading accurate plus throw rate, which is like, big time throws. These are the big boy throws, and he threw them at a higher rate than any other player. His, in general, accurate throw rate, more of a down-to-down measure, was about league average, a little above league average. EPA was fine, not great. Again, that's what red zone struggles would do to you. But for me, what I cared about was he accurate? Like, did it look like he was struggling through anything? The answer to that was no. And did he pass the eye test? Which the answer to that was yes, even if it wasn't a perfect game. I just didn't want to see him limping. I didn't want to see him changing his shoes to tennis shoes on the sideline. Okay, he did do that, to be fair. He literally did have a second pair of sneakers. Yeah. It was a little weird, but he looked fine. The numbers were mixed bag, but generally positive leaning, I would say. And this is the shootout of the year, potentially. So yeah, absolutely in the QB1 ranks because of the game environment, top 5 or 6, almost certainly.
Yeah, I've actually got him like QB3 or 4. It feels a little high. It's a very weird week at quarterback. Lamar Jackson, one of the main reasons for that. We'll get to that a little later. But Denny, this is a shootout. This is a Bills defense that really struggles, not against the pass as much as the run. Maybe the worst run defense in the entire league. So we think Chase Brown is probably inoculated against whatever Samaje Perine has got going on. But how big of a threat is Samaje Perine looking like for Chase Brown? If at all. A lot of his touches in Week 13 did come with the Bengals up 2 scores late, where he then, of course, lost a red zone fumble.
Yes. I mentioned last week, just in passing, I think near the end of the show, I was like, hey, by the way, Perine is practicing this week.
And did we laugh at you? I don't think we did.
No, you didn't. But I mentioned it because it matters so much for Chase Brown. So, Perine had been out for a while with a pretty serious ankle injury, came back last week. So against the Ravens, Chase Brown had 15 rushes to 14 for Perine. Of course, some of those came in the fourth quarter. Brown ran 28 routes to 12 routes for Perine. Importantly, Chase Brown caught 7 of 7 targets. He's been targeted on 24% of his routes on the season. So he's like a legit part of this passing attack, right? So if you think that the Bengals are going to continue making the, drop back EPA machine go burr, then, Brown can get there for PPR. But I do think, Perine is a little bit of an issue here. The matchup is too good, though. I think you just forget about it. You just play Chase Brown.
That's the thing, Denny. Perine is an issue, just not. It's hard to see how he's an issue this week. And losing that late fumble probably further solidifies Chase Brown, in the high value touches inside the 20. So you just don't worry about a running back against the Bills, even if they're losing 40% of the snaps. Yeah. Like Chase Brown has been. By the way, how old is Samaje Perine? Kyle, go.
32.
Denny.
39.
Samaje Perine did not turn 30 until just this September.
Dang,
he's like the inverse Taysom Hill. However old you think he is, subtract 3 years instead of add 3 years.
Man, that beard doesn't do anything for him.
No.
Feels like I was 5 years old when he was setting the NCAA rushing record in a single game, which I believe he did, and then a week later Melvin Gordon did.
There were crazy things happening in NCAA circa 2015. Kyle, is this a giga ultra nuclear smash spot for Dalton Kincaid if he can actually play football? Because it seemed like he was finally going to come back from his hamstring injury to face a Bengals team, giving up a world historic amount of tight end fantasy points. Now he has a knee injury too.
Correct. Yeah.
He's never seen more than 6 targets in a game this season, Dalton Kincaid. But if he actually plays, is this like the smash spot to end all smash spots for him? The team really needs him too, the Bills.
I know, man. They really do. Not to say that he will fix all their problems, but it's at least the best step in the right direction they can take. Again, this is all contingent on him actually playing. I believe he was limited in practice last week as well, which tends to happen. Like players who miss time get in some limited work and then they still get a week off. He is again limited on Wednesday this week. But like you said, they added a knee issue onto his injury report. It didn't stop him from practicing, but the literal last thing you want to see, maybe DNP is quite literally the last thing you want to see, but the second to last thing you want to see for a player trying to come back from a multi-week injury is putting a new injury on said injury report. That being said, he was spotted at practice again on Thursday. I would put him as better than a coin flip, probably a good bit better than a coin flip to play this week. I don't think he plays a full-time role. He's not really played a full-time role at any point this year. That has not stopped him. In fact, it's probably what has helped him to be first in the NFL by a considerable margin among tight ends, at least in yards per route run at 2.9. The fact that they don't use him on every play actually allows them to be really intentional with how they use him. He's top 5 among tight ends in both yards after the catch per reception and ADOT, which say he can both move the ball downfield before catching it and do a lot of damage once they get the ball in his hands. And they just absolutely need that. Like we've talked about many weeks in a row, the Bills still have a lot of the pieces of a good team. They're just missing 3 competent wide receivers, which just seems like they can't really field that. Also, their offensive line is banged up. And of course, this Bengals defense, which I don't need to remind you, is the worst in the NFL at covering tight ends. And it is not even a remotely close race.
The Bills, by the way, should have hired Brian Hartline as their offensive coordinator. I'm actually a little shook and destabilized. I did not know that finally Ohio State will be exposed as a fraud too. By the way. The only people who had been able to do it were Mizzou in the Cotton Bowl 2 years ago. We knew, right? You guys were trying as hard as you possibly could to win that game, and I think
Ryan Day even showed up for that game. Whatever.
Ryan Day was there. He came to Texas. Well, Texas doesn't have barbecue there. It's fine, whatever. I don't care. Enough about the Buckeyes. Enough about Dalton Kincaid. By the way, credit to me for not bringing up, are the Bills broken this week? But you guys didn't think I wouldn't ask that question for the first time.
At this point, we kind of just know the answer is yes, but deal with it.
Yeah, that is true. I must deal with Daniel Jones still being an NFL starting quarterback. As the Jaguars gain momentum, Denny, the Colts seem to be losing it. They remain in strong AFC playoff position, Indianapolis, but things start to get really dicey if they lose on Sunday in Jacksonville. What is the Colts' likely offensive approach, and who do we actually trust in this passing attack right now? It has been tough sledding of late for Michael Pittman Jr.
Yeah, so I'm going to get to Daniel Jones in just a moment here, but looking at pass rate over expected for the Colts, see if you can follow a trend here, and then the drop off. +8 pass rate over expected in week 7, +15 in week 8, +13 in week 9, -5 in week 10, +14 in week 12, and then -11% in week 13. That was the lowest of the year, the run heaviest game of the season. Daniel Jones, since the leg injury, is playing with basically a broken leg, has gone from an ADOT average at the target of 8.5 to 6.8. That's a big drop off. So it's pretty bleak as far as things go. And I think the Colts will try to be run heavy this weekend going forward.
Anything on the Colts?
Yeah, I have some stuff on. So the Jags are the most extreme pass funnel defense in the league. So take that for what it's worth.
Well, yeah, you cannot run on them. They've allowed the fewest rushing yards in all of football.
Right. And that's somewhat because teams don't try to, because they could be picked on through the air a little bit. But yeah, so the Colts, I think, want to be run heavy. Whether they will be is another question. Over the past 3 games, Alec Pierce has a 45% air yard share, which is really strong, but he's averaging 19 air yards per target over that stretch. I mean, that's good in that, splash plays, he does have upside baked into his usage, and it means it's going to be hard for him to have a stable floor, but you kind of knew that going in. Pittman, only 17% target share over those 3 games. Tyler Warren somehow leads the team with a 24%.
Even though he never has a good game. Curious.
I know. It's actually baffling.
It is actually baffling. He has the highest floor in fantasy football,
but no ceiling.
No ceiling whatsoever.
The Jags allow the second most targets per game to tight ends. They do struggle against boundary receivers. I won't bore you with metrics, but I think that you're playing Pierce in all formats, and then Warren's matchup is good just for what that's worth.
MPJ, as he's known, still in the top 36 too, partly because 4 teams are on bye. If the player pool was full, I might have him outside the top 40 this week because he's just come crashing back down to earth. Very unfortunate after what we saw earlier in the year. Very unfortunate what we've seen all year, Kyle, from Brian Thomas Jr. He's making this Jags skill core extremely complicated because he's back, but he resumed struggling. Britton Strange is back. He resumed producing. Jacoby Myers seemed to be at the top of the depth chart right now. Can you sort out just the targets mix, the snaps mix, whatever's going on with these Jags pass catchers?
Like you said, BTJ back last week, and the one thing for 2 months of the year we had kind of hung our hat on is the team made it a priority, and he earned the football a lot. what happened between the time it left Trevor Lawrence's hand and by the time it got to BTJ, or sometimes didn't get to BTJ, that was in God's hands, and God did not like the Jags. But good players earn the football a lot, and he was doing that. And maybe it's only a 1 week sample, but last week he had his lowest target share of the season and his lowest targets per route run of the season. He was out there like any normal starting wide receiver and just could not earn the football. And that would be the final nail in the coffin. Maybe it's because it was the first game back from a pretty lengthy absence. They also moved him into the slot more because Parker Washington got dinged up. He left the game, I think, in the second quarter. I don't remember exactly. And he had been incredible in the slot last year, averaged over 3 yards per route run, an insane number out of the slot specifically. He's done nothing. He's done nothing all year, but he's done nothing out of the slot specifically this year. So he's still playing a full-time role. I still think his targets increased from what they were last week. But I used to have some volume-based wide receiver 2 faith. I don't even know if I have that faith anymore. Parker Washington returned to practice today as of Thursday, or at least he was spotted at practice. So maybe he's back, maybe retakes that part-time slot role. But truly, I think you kind of have to knock BTJ into the wide receiver 3 ranks. I think you got to rank Jacoby ahead of him.
You do. And unfortunately, BTJ is just a boom bust wide receiver 3 right now. And there's a chance this is the nadir. And at the end of the season, we're like, man, that could not sustain that way. And thank God it didn't. Thank God Brian Thomas Jr. actually started producing. But we are firmly in believe it when you see it territory, because we didn't see it before the injury. We didn't see it in his game. But listen, I appreciate a receiver helping the team. I don't think it's a good sign when the official NFL account is tweeting out a highlight of Brian Thomas Jr. blocking. That to me is a fantasy death sentence.
Big time.
You cannot get a blocking. The only way you can get a blocking highlight if it's Justin Jefferson blocked for the first time in his career. This is sick. This is awesome. Isn't this funny? We know this isn't going to happen again, but this is pretty funny, guys. Check out this clip. You can't have the NFL account we haven't had a BTJ highlight all year. I don't know, is he blocking at all? Right now?
Has BTJ had a highlight all year?
True. Good. By the way, I just thought I kept thinking of the bit of God being handed a piece of paper that said Duval on it, and he's supposed to read it, and he just crumples it up and throws it. Nope.
So who's a worse fantasy pick this season, BTJ or Saquon Barkley?
BTJ, not even close.
I think
it's pretty close.
So too, I think it's close, but I think it's BTJ.
How many RB1 finishes would you say Saquon Barkley has since September?
3.
It is 2, and one of them is RB11. So
that's pretty bleak.
I mean, people were taking Saquon first overall or second.
And I was going to say
Saquon is even worse. Yeah. BTJ at least had the dignity to get hurt. So you took the decision out of your hands.
You couldn't bench Saquon.
Yeah.
And Saquon, you had to take him over, or you got unfortunate to take him right behind guys like CMC. CeeDee Lamb obviously missed time, but has just been awesome whenever he's been on the field. Like Denny said, some people took him as the 101 over Jamar Chase, whereas the 1-2 turn has been a bit unfortunate this year, where you should have had a great season from Malik Neighbors if you took Malik Neighbors over BTJ, and you just didn't get there. Drake London, again, just been banged up on a terrible team. So the fact that the top of the draft where you took Saquon Barkley was kind of stacked this year maybe helps even it out. But both tough, man. Both tough.
Denny, by the way, is the Tootin takeover watch back on, or is this just random weekly variation? He certainly looked like the Jaguars goal line back in week 13.
Yeah. He had 2 inside the 5 carries. ETN has not been involved inside the 10 all year. I think he has 4 carries inside the 10 all year.
Travis Etienne, one of the worst touchdown scorers in the history of the National Football
League. Truly. Overall, last week, ETN led 12-8 in carries over Tootin. Tootin's averaging 3.5 yards per carry this season. Last week, he averaged under 3. I mean, is he good? I don't know.
It sounds like Saquon season to me.
And then there's the route running is ugly on both ends. ETN over the past 3 games for Jacksonville is running 38% of the routes, which is ugly until you look at Tootin, 17%. So the running backs are just not running many routes in this Jaguars offense. It's
because their pass catchers are performing so well. Smarting from a surprising Panthers humbling the Rams. Head out to the desert to take on the Cardinals as touchdown plus road favorites. Kyle Dvorchak. First off, that spread seems a little high to me. The bookmakers just love giving respect to the same teams over and over again, even after they rug pull over and over and over again. But secondly, is this a matchup that can get Matthew Stafford, quote, back on track? The kind of hard for Matthew Stafford to fall off track this year when they don't have a goal line running back. They have a goal line wide receiver. That has really been goosing his fantasy numbers all season. How do you feel about that spread? How do you feel about Matty Stafford?
When you didn't note the spread specifically in your show notes, you just said that seems high. So I thought you were talking about the total. So I'm going to pretend you said that seems like a pretty high total to let you know that games with the Cardinals are pretty fun.
That total's too low. That's way too low.
Right.
I mean, based on how the Cardinals under Jacoby Brissett specifically have played this year, which is like, this is not how it would actually work, but it would be true that this is a low total. In Jacoby Brissett starts, their games have finished with an average of 53 points scored total. Like, they are a fantasy points machine for both their opponents and themselves. In terms of the opponents, obviously it's great for them. Defense this year has not been that good. Stafford actually leads the league in specifically play action usage, and the Cardinals have given up the 4th highest touchdown rate on play action, which is to say, like, specifically probably right. Yeah, specifically, I guess that's in the red zone. They're probably biting on it a decent amount, which Stafford's going to eat that kind of stuff up. They're also just in general a below average defense in EPA per play. Like I said, their games are fun. Their defense isn't great, and they have a specific weakness that I think Stafford's going to exploit.
2 61-yard, 2 Atwell touchdowns off play action incoming this week. Jacoby Brissett, best player in the league, Denny. Pretty self-evident, I would say. He cannot stop producing. The Rams had been seen as a somewhat tough matchup, even though their secondary was not great. Then they just got carved up by Bryce Young. I guess as the Panthers were run-based, as you pointed out to me earlier, and we were talking about Rico Dowdle on a video on demand. Check it out on rotoworld.com. But how's this matchup? Is Jacoby a wider QB1, for the fantasy final week of the fantasy regular season? Why is the answer yes, things of that nature.
Yeah, as you know, I look at pass funnel, run funnel defenses every week, and I write about them on Fridays on the site if folks want to check that out. Sometimes I throw everything out when I'm looking at those numbers, because you have Jacoby Brissett and the Cardinals playing against the Rams. The Rams have seen Rams opponents have passed at only a 50% neutral rate this year, which is very low. I don't care. Like the Cardinals. The Cardinals don't have the personnel to do that, right? They just have a bunch of guys. Nobody's in the backfield. Sorry, Bam Knight, if you're listening.
Sorry, Mari DeMarcado. Sorry, Michael Carter. Sorry, Trey Benson. Sorry, other guy.
Yeah, apologies all around. But, since Jacoby took over, the Cardinals are averaging 312 total team air yards per game. That's the second highest in the league, behind the Texans, by the way.
Wow. Davis Mills season.
Lots of air yards to go around. So what I'm saying is, the Cardinals pass catchers can get there. More than one can get there per week. We've seen that. That will continue until morale improves.
Marvin Harrison Jr., heel, probably doubtful at this point, Denny. Yeah. So Michael Wilson, just a must start.
Oh, man, wheels all the way up, man.
Wide receiver 1 overall, maybe.
I mean, so Kyle, we were joking on Tuesday's show. If Brissett played for the Vikings, it would be Justin Jefferson by far and away wide receiver 1 overall.
Far.
I'm an avid listener. I listened to that segment, and totally, like, it would be
Addison top 5, Hawkinson all the way back.
Kyle, thank you for listening. Michael Wilson or T. Higgins?
Wilson. I mean, there's not a reasonable sounding name that I wouldn't take.
No, I did put T one spot ahead of Michael Wilson, I'll say. Devontae Adams or Michael Wilson. I mean, no one has this conundrum.
Dang. No, people probably do. I don't think it's incorrect to say that. Wilson had like 28 catches or something, like 26 catches for 300 some odd yards in his 2 non-MHJ games. Like, he's probably wide receiver 1 overall in those 2 consecutive games. So I would still probably take Devontae slightly, but I think that's a reasonable question.
Adams is a touchdown or busts guy.
He is. I'm nervous. You want to hear? This is fantasy manager brain. If you ever want to hear it, I'm down to the final 3 in the Matthew Berry Guillotine League. I have been riding Devontae Adams hard. Like, we're talking hard. Like, he has staved off elimination 2 or 3 different times. This thought keeps entering my head. Like, dude, Devontae is gonna have a game where he doesn't score a touchdown.
Yeah,
I'm almost like thinking about preemptively benching him this week. Like,
you're giving a he's due, and I know when.
Yeah, I want to make a he's due benching on Devontae, even though you cannot do that. No.
The Rams total is super high.
I checked like 2 or 3 weeks ago, so I'd assume he has since set the record. But as of like 2 or 3 weeks ago, he had the most targets inside the 5 for a wide receiver, at least since the year 2000. Probably much before that. But he was not just like oh, he's doing goal line back stuff, which he is, but he's doing it more than any other wide receiver, at least for a quarter century. That was as of a few weeks ago. He's probably set the record by a mile now.
Mike Evans, an absolute shambles. Kyle, Denny alluded to this Cardinals backfield check-in. I alluded to this, not looking good for Trey Benson to be back this week. What do we think we're getting? Apparently, Imari DiMercado might be back. Great. Hey, we're all happy you're healthy, Imari. Yep.
Yeah.
Not at all. Not at all, making my life even more complicated.
Yeah, I would say the DiMercado return, almost certainly, he's not guaranteed to return, right? But if he did return, takes any sort of interesting Michael Carter PPR, like flex type of stuff off the table, just because you need the entirety of that pass catching role. Bam Knight has been pretty successfully playing the between the tackles role. And even though he didn't run a ton of routes last week, did earn a decent amount of targets. And I believe he caught a receiving touchdown as well. Trey Benson returned to practice. It was like 2 weeks ago at this point, but last week he went limited practice to open the week, and then DNP, and then DNP again this most recent Wednesday. To me, that sounds very much like a setback. I don't know if he plays again this year. I would bet heavily that he doesn't play this week. So if you've been riding Bam as like a low-end RB2, kind of high-end RB3, you can gamble again. He's only getting 2 downs of the workload, and it's in a tough spot, but there are worse options.
Please. My father calls me Zonovan. I almost burst out laughing, thinking of my own terrible joke, and I couldn't wait to say it, and I could barely get it out. But yeah, being both named Zonovan and Bam, most of us have 0 cool names.
Yeah.
Bam Knight has 2 of them.
He can choose from them, man.
He can choose, and we do choose. Some weeks I call him
Bam. He like has a good game, bad game, where he's like, I'm going to switch my name, and no matter what he does, he's like, dang, these are all so cool.
I know, these are all so sick. I need to add a third.
Jeff Knight.
Yeah, Jeff.
Just something boring.
All right, the Bears, Chicago Bears. Bears have 1 loss since week 2, and they're coming off something of a signature win, Denny Carter, and Philadelphia Eagles getting hellaciously booed despite being the defending Super Bowl champions and being 8-4. But the Packers remain a poor matchup. Chicago went super run heavy in Philly. What is the approach going to be here against a Green Bay Packers team that has not been pleasant to the pass because of a man named Micah Parsons?
So this game screams, more run heaviness for the Bears offense, because that's how teams have played the Packers for most of the season, but especially over the past month. So let's just start with the Bears. Through week 13, Ben Johnson's offense has a 52% neutral pass rate. That's the 4th lowest mark in the league. That rate has dropped actually to 48% since week 8. It's the 2nd lowest since that time. Over the past 6 weeks, now we're on to the Packers. The Packers defense has seen opponents pass the ball at a league low 42% neutral rate. And Green Bay opponents are a collective 13% below their expected pass rate since week 9. What I'm saying is we are in for another 40 carry game for this backfield, for the Chicago backfield. You can kind of guess how it'll be split up. Mostly it just means that Monangai, who, by the way, was upgraded today. I just saw on Rotoworld.com. He was upgraded today in practice.
Thank God.
It means that Monangai is very much in play in 12-team leagues, I think.
Monangai very much in play. Although I will say, if they're trailing on the road against a really good defense, it does profile more as a DeAndre Swift week. But as Denny points out, his profiles as a Bears running game, Bears run game in general. Producer Adam points out, Rome Odunze not practicing in on Thursday with a foot injury.
That's interesting.
Boy, talk about a complicated skill core. Even more complicated since the passing volume has cratered.
I know. So that's a big problem. Like for these Bears pass catchers, now that Ben Johnson is doing this one weird trick. And
he's, by the way, he's so good. He's quite good. He's amazing. He's the Josh McDaniels who was promised.
Yes.
Kind of, yeah.
Yes, I think you're right. But yeah, so it's like it's really going to be hard for anybody to get here. Like Luther Burden, Colston Loveland. Like I don't know what to do with these guys. You're trying not to play them, honestly. The Packers really have seen a lot of rushing attempts over the past month. I can't emphasize that enough.
You do an AI prompt, actually good, non-fraudulent Josh McDaniels, and out comes Ben Johnson.
And all it took was 13,000 gallons of water.
How does Ben pull off too? Like, because he's clearly a spreadsheet guy. But how does he pull off kind of being like menacing and like actually scary, even though he's like not that
from the
big?
Best, man. He learned from a guy who's really good at that, Dan Campbell. He's one of the other examples. Of
that's another thing where he's the real McDaniels, right? It seems like he learned more from like Bill Belichick. Like he's got like an edge to him. Like unlike Bill, he will take off his shirt and celebrate with the team.
Well, I would too. I mean, Ben Johnson, one thing he improved this year was his pectoral muscles.
Yeah, our guy is strong, but he saw that the Eberflus glow up wasn't good enough to save his job. You know, the town, Chicago's the big city. You got to be glowed all the way up to make it in this town, buddy. And you need strong pecs. Kyle, we need Jordan Love to actually throw the football. He did on Thanksgiving Day against the Detroit Lions. Threw so much, even our old friend Dontavian Wicks decided to stop humiliating us for once.
It's like an old friend visiting on Thanksgiving specifically. Like, I know Dontavian showed up.
Like, listen, I know he just came here to drink, but that's fine. You know, some people serve that function in your life.
I was just glad to see him.
Yeah, I was just glad to see him. I don't even care if he was using me, if he knew I had the greatest liquor cabinet in town. We're just happy to see you, Dontavian. What is the current pecking order of the Packers receiver core, Kyle? And can we actually treat Jordan Love as a QB1 for this one?
It's looking very much like Christian Watson has taken over as the team's wide receiver one. That could be very matchup specific. Like I've said in the past, he's a guy who kind of thrives against man coverage. And I know 3 weeks ago I believe it was 3 weeks ago, it was one of his first big games of the year. He hasn't played all year. And it was against the Giants, who run a lot of man. But since then, it just does seem like if you're not going to throw the football a lot, which we know the Packers do not want to do over the past month, they have a negative 5% pass rate over expected. If you're not going to throw the ball a lot, make your pass attempts count. And that's what they've done all year, right? That's how they make the spreadsheets go burrs, because they don't throw the football a lot and they're really good when they do. And maybe some of not throwing the football a lot helps them throw the football well when they do, like we've seen with guys like Darnold and Tannehill. I'll rebut that in a minute, but I do think it's at least a consideration. And because you're not throwing the football often, you want to make those throws count. Of course, it makes sense to go to Christian Watson, who, when he's targeted, is just an elite fantasy player. He just generally doesn't earn a ton of targets, but that's starting to flip over the past few weeks too. A 31% target share and 44% of the air yards over the past 3 weeks. That's not just saying he's starting to earn more targets. That's alpha stuff. So I'd be excited to play him, even though, like I said, I don't actually think we're going to see the Packers pass the football a lot this week. But when they do, they're going to do it well. And on the note on Jordan Love, I actually don't think he is a run pass type of merchant. He's gotten the advantage of play action at the 20th highest rate this year. And he actually hasn't gained that much on his play action plays. Looking at just third or fourth and long, as in the most obvious passing plays you can have, just looking at those, he leads the league in yards per attempt. He also leads the league in all plays, in EPA per play. So even when you take away the, I don't want to say gimmicky, but very quarterback-friendly play action, even when you say only look at plays where everyone knew he was going to pass, he's like one of the best quarterbacks.
It's like undeniable via the eye test too. So just let him do it. Like, have you ever thought of that?
They've not. No, they've never even considered it.
He converts every 100% in his career on 3rd and 14.
Yeah, seriously is, man. So good.
It's like Kurt Warner.
Yeah, the EPA machine says that Jordan Love is better than Drake May this year.
But Matt LaFleur says, I'm the most important guy on this team, and I'll let you know when that changes. All right, Jordan? I'll let you know, buddy. I'll let you know when that changes.
I do want to say I think this 44.5 total is too low for this game, unless there's crazy weather, which of course there could be. But I think I like this game to go back and forth a little bit.
Caleb Williams, by the way, has completed fewer than 60% of his passes in 5 straight games. So not only have they been throwing less, he's been converting much less.
He did nothing wrong. Listen, I have always said Caleb has been wrongfully accused of being inaccurate. No team has dropped more air yards this year than the Bears. Okay,
really?
So Caleb, just unlucky.
And Denny never blurrier than he's ever been by saying when he said Caleb Williams was unlucky. Caleb Williams is the perfect amount of luck. That makes no sense at all. The Seattle Seahawks arrive in Atlanta as somewhat modest touchdown favorites. Kyle Dvorchak. This is a potential Seattle smash spot. Perhaps the bookmakers are wary because of Sam Darnold's recent play. Perhaps they're wary because it's one of the longest road trips you can make in North American sports. How has Sam Darnold been?
Get your binoculars out. Go ahead.
What can fantasy managers expect here? He's been very bad of late. I can also do expect against the Atlanta Falcons.
I will say, as far as what like bookmakers are expecting, the Seahawks have the 4th highest team total of the week, and that's in a game where they don't expect the other team to score many points, and the Seahawks are on the road. So I would say, frankly, bookmakers have more faith than I do, because very similar to Daniel Jones, we've just gotten Sam Darnold kind of being exposed over the past month. Not that he's been terrible, but it's specifically his weaknesses have been amplified to a degree that makes him look like Sam Darnold, just Sam Darnold of old. He has been PFF's lowest graded passer under pressure over the past month by a wide margin. I believe he was like 1 touchdown to 4 interceptions. I believe the highest turnover-worthy play rate under pressure as well. And the Falcons, they get a decent amount of pressure. They're above average in pressure rate. They blitz at an extremely high rate. So I think that's at least a high variance spot where we're going to get JSN open on a blitz, like one-on-one coverage. He's going to toast a Falcons corner, and he's going to break some big plays. No worries. I know JSN had finally like his first true dud of the year last week. Obviously, no concerns there. Darnold, again, this isn't a great Falcons defense. They've kind of struggled over the past few weeks. But on the whole in the season, they're solid at generating pressure. I don't think we get a true Darnold explosion like one of the spreadsheet breaking games, but I still think he's a viable QB1 fringe kind of player. Like I have some thoughts where I kind of have to start him.
Denny, are we worried about sleepy Seahawks? I know this is kind of a talking point you really like. I do too.
I mean, the Rams were very sleepy last week against the Panthers. Like they were not like fully conscious until like the end of the third quarter last week.
Listen, no one comes in to the 2 different acronyms that apply to Charlotte and its football stadium that you somehow cannot say on air. No one comes into those wins. Nobody. But I think we're going to see some very sleepy Seahawks in this.
Yeah, it's the West Coast. These guys sleep in. It's going to be tough.
You know who's never slept in his life, Denny, is Kirk Cousins.
Oh, no.
Getting up at 3:30 since the day he was born. El Kirko doing anything at all that we care about. Drake London again. I remain steadfast in my theory. The Falcons will not allow Drake London to play at the same time as Kirk Cousins as punishment for Kirk Cousins taking their money.
Yeah, and as punishment for staying on the roster, I guess, for not being appealing enough to be able to trade in the offseason. Just real quick, Falcons are 27th in total team air yards per game in the 2 games that Cousins has started these past 2 weeks. 3 total downfield throws for Cousins in those 2 games, an ADOT of 5.9 yards. Kyle Pitts leading with a 23% target share. He's being targeted on 25% of his routes. So Kyle Pitts is a viable starting tight end, and Darnell Mooney is a guy that you're just hoping and praying catches a touchdown. But he didn't get away with it last week. He got away with it 2 weeks ago. Didn't get away with it last week. You're just hoping he gets away with it again.
Denny, say his name. I know you want to say it. Hopefully you know what I'm talking about.
I already know.
Hopefully you know what I'm talking about. He's the 5th. I can tell you that. He's a young man who's the 5th.
I don't know.
Okay, I didn't know that.
David Sills?
David Sills the 5th. His legal name is David Sills the 5th. This is not a joke. Say his name.
It increases every week.
How many David Sills the 5th lineups are you going to have this week?
There's so many. None.
I thought you were talking about Tyler Algier. I thought Denny was going to be like, what? I know they're going to get blown out by 40, but what if Algier goes 3 for 1 and a touchdown?
Thankfully, Denny knew who I was talking about.
Yeah. David Sills. Was he he was a tight end. Now he's a receiver.
It doesn't matter.
No, you're thinking of Felipe Franks, who was a quarterback, then a tight end who played for the Panthers and the Falcons.
Maybe I am.
Kyle, Kenneth Walker fell for it again award, ?
I think he kind of ran bad last week because he gets out carried by Zach Charbonnet 14-13, but I don't remember who they play. They blew them out.
Played the Minnesota Vikings, who did not score a single point, which probably had a little something to do with
forgot that was that game.
Yeah.
Yep. Oh yeah. So they quite literally did not need to score a point on offense, and they could have won that game.
They got an opening drive safety, and the game's over.
Yep. So man. Anyway, so the 4th quarter comes around and they do not, maybe they technically put him back on the field, but for what we care about carries, they did not put Ken Walker back on the field. He gave up 6 carries to Sharps in the 4th quarter, an additional 3 in true garbage time on the final drive to Myles Gaskin. Had we not had those plays, which I believe it was also a 4th quarter score for Zach Charbonnet, which wasn't even at the goal line. It was from, I believe, 17 yards out. So we didn't even get the goal line vulture specifically. It was a red zone vulture, but it was garbage time. It was true garbage time. Before that, it very much looked like Ken Walker was, we'll call it the 1A, and potentially getting goal line work. We just didn't have the data to say whether he did or not, but at least maybe getting a goal line split like he did in previous weeks to Zach Charbonnet truly just being a 1B. They're big favorites against the Falcons this week. I kind of think you're fine trotting out Walker as an RB2. He's still going to be, he's going to be spelled more often than maybe you'd like by Zach Charbonnet, but I'm comfortable calling him the starter again.
Let me be clear, by the way, that Seahawks safety comment was parody, by the way, hashtag parody. That did not actually happen. In that game.
What actually happened on defense was way worse.
It was far.
Never seen. So
the Peterman was busted out by the Bras. And may God rest his soul. We'll never see him play football again. Meeting up for a stop the fight 6-6 matchup, Denny. The Ravens are hosting the Steelers as 6-point favorites for some reason. I swear to God, the Ravens could lose 40 games in a row, and they're coming out as 6 or 7 point favorites the following week.
It is amazing.
I know the Steelers aren't good, but anyways, it has been determined, though, that neither of these teams are good. The Ravens remain more confounding, including now since Lamar Jackson's not practicing again on Thursday. We think he's going to play. They're probably just managing his reps. But any hope whatsoever of Lamar Jackson stopping his recent fantasy slide, 3 games without a touchdown of any kind, or is he just too injured at this point?
Yeah, I mean, he's so diminished. I think just anecdotally, like you're seeing, linebackers and like linemen, like edge rushers chase him down kind of easily now.
Remember, I was on the bleeding edge of this.
You were. So, but that was before he was banged up.
Well, no, yeah, it was.
I have the details.
Sure.
I have the tea on this for you guys. You guys on a Tuesday, or maybe you talked to me about it. I don't remember. It was around, I think they played the Lions or something, and he kept getting taken down from behind. And I was like, maybe he's not hurt. And the very next week is when he actually got hurt, which isn't to say that he was dealing.
I think he was already hurt. Yeah, because I think I talked about it for about
thing.
45 straight minutes that day. Like, dang, I've never seen this before. And all right, let's move on to the next topic. And I just kept bringing it up over and over and over.
Yes. So, but Denny agreed with you. You guys were kind of both right as it was about to become public knowledge, seeing this coming.
It's a weird thing to see. So, I mean, I talked last week about how ugly the rushing numbers are for him. 13 rush yards after contact total over the past 3 games for Lamar. We're just not really used to seeing that sort of thing. He also just he looks just indecisive and uncomfortable in the pocket.
He does.
It bleeds in. His injury situation bleeds into every part of his game. I'm not trying to be like funny or like do a bit, but like I'm kind of trying not to start him this week.
It's one of the biggest conundrums in the entire. I haven't ranked as the QB 10, so still in the top 12, but I mean, not even kidding. He basically knocked me out of a league, so I did not bench him any of the past 3 weeks, and it's a real tough situation.
So, Brissett or Lamar feels like it's Brissett, right? Like
I have Brissett one
for
spot.
300. Yeah.
Wait, no, I think I have Lamar one spot ahead of Brissett. Oh, I did. I have Brissett. I literally flipped him this morning. I have Brissett one spot ahead of Lamar. So Baker Mayfield or Lamar?
Baker, yeah.
Baker.
Sorry, what were you going to say, Denny?
I mean, say you have like Caleb Williams and Lamar.
No, come on.
Yeah.
Have some dignity. I mean, if you're going to go out with Lamar. I mean,
oh, really?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Wow. Okay.
What about Bo Nix or Lamar?
Speaking of have some dignity.
Now, as you know, that was my theory in the Survivor League last week. Like, I cannot go out with Bo, although this week I am going to go out with Bo.
I was going to say, you're like, I can't go out with Bo Nix this week because I really want to do it next week.
Come on.
Well, the Broncos total of 24 is not as high as I thought it would be.
It's fine.
The Raiders are going to win one more fluke game down the stretch, and it's going to be to knock me out of Survivor this week, but that's okay. I'll tell you what is not okay, Kyle, was the Ravens extending Mark Andrews.
What?
Can't really say I get the logic here. It's the most Steelers-coded thing the Ravens have ever done. I'll say. I've been meaning to tweet that. Are we still starting Mark Andrews in fantasy football, considering everything we just laid out with Lamar?
He's startable. I don't think I'd prefer to start him, but he's seen at least 20%. It's like specifically 20% of the targets in 3 of his past 4 games. He's seeing plenty of the team's end zone and red zone targets. But like we've talked about, they haven't been a great offense. So it's not like they're just piling up tons of end zone, red zone looks and funneling touchdowns to him. It's just that if the team does pass for a touchdown, he's certainly the best bet amongst the crew. You could also pencil him in for like a little bit of tush push equity, apparently, which isn't a ton of fantasy, but we've seen it hit once before. So I think he's maybe he's definitely on the tight end 1 borderline. Do I want to start him given everything we just said about this offense? No, I'd probably try and find something else. Like I think you could probably get away with a Zach Ertz over him or even a Brenton Strange. These guys are certainly in the mix to be over him.
It's just really jumbled. There's not a whole lot of difference between like the tight end 7 and 19 right now. I don't know if I've ever seen it quite this jumbled. Denny, the Steelers are predictably claiming they're going to recommit to the run. I believe you wrote that blurb for us. Do we care? What do we expect? Things of that nature in Baltimore, Maryland.
Yeah, Mike Tomlin did his one trick where he said we're going to reestablish physicality,
and then it always works.
And
it does have a good hit rate.
We're going to play big man ball. So we'll see how that goes. Anyway, I guess they're going to try to run it more. So, Jaylen Warren obviously in play. Gainwell is too in PPR. Warren has 38 rushes to 24 rushes for Gainwell over the past 3 games. Ravens, interestingly, are allowing the 4th most targets to running backs this season. That could be a factor for Gainwell, who is somehow 7th among all running backs in targets. So I think you could kind of get there scam wise for Gainwell. I don't think that you can start any of these Steelers pass catchers. I mean, maybe Metcalf, but like
Metcalf thing is wild. It is like
you have to be pretty hard up at wide receiver to put Metcalf in your lineup.
I mean, you just know at some point, though, DK Metcalf will score a 42-yard touchdown. Like, you really can cling to that possibility, but that is all you're clinging to. That's like the one play.
I wanted to mention, actually, our buddy Rich Rebar pointed this out, and I thought it was worth mentioning here. So Aaron Rodgers, having several broken bones in his wrist, has to play from shotgun right now. And I mean, they should just be starting Mason Rudolph.
I mean, it makes no sense.
Anyway, Jaylen Warren and Kenny Gainwell have been far less efficient from shotgun than they have from under center as far as carries go. It's a tough spot, I think, for everybody in this offense.
I just saw a replay of one of the Aaron Rodgers Hail Marys, the one he hit on Thursday Night Football against the Lions. And to see when Aaron Rodgers could actually move, versus not, it was like seeing like a different human being. It was rather sad, actually.
Well, his game against his playoff game against the Cardinals with Jeff Janis.
Yeah, man.
Those were 2 of the
over 100 receiving yards on a single drive for Jeff Janis. You don't think that's possible, and yet he did it.
Jeff Janis did nothing wrong. Getting booed at home despite their 8-4 record, Kyle. The Eagles must now play a de facto home game as their fans get ready to take over SoFi Stadium in Los Angeles. Denny already laid out some of the Chargers' stakes on Tuesday. Apparently you listened. Thank you. But what can we expect with or without Justin Herbert? Are bolts beyond Ladd McConkey even playable in this game?
I kind of think Justin Herbert plays. I mean, both Harbaugh and Herbert himself have given as positive comments as you can after a dude breaks, I think it was his middle finger or ring finger on his
middle finger on his left hand.
Yeah,
or maybe it was his ring finger. Either way, one of the important ones.
Yeah, not the pinky.
Not the pinky. Yeah, not the pinky.
Pinky, just chop it off and you keep playing. He wouldn't have even gone to the locker.
Even the ring finger you could probably chop off, actually.
Yeah, but I think it might have been middle. I still think he plays. I haven't seen the practice report as of today, but he's supposed to be returning to practice over one of the next 2 days. As we pointed out before, this team without Joe Alt specifically has been either the worst or maybe they climbed out of not dead last in EPA per play on the pass, specifically in snaps without Joe Alt, left tackle Joe Alt, that is. I'm a big offensive line guy. That's kind of what everyone knows me around here for. I mean, I do think maybe they came out of the bye with a slightly better plan to cope with the fact that not only is their starting left tackle out, but for the entire year, the starting right tackle has been out as well. With that being said, it's probably just like, let's try and scrape by with not getting Justin Herbert hurt. Like, you don't even necessarily need to win this game as much as please don't let the hand fall off. And of course, the Eagles are probably fine playing a low scoring. I mean, the total is 40.5. They're comfortable playing a low scoring game. I think we probably are comfortable starting Ladd, comfortable adjacent. If Trey Lance plays, don't start any of these guys. But assuming Herbert plays, comfortable adjacent playing Ladd. You talked about it on Tuesday. The Quentin Johnson, like, Justin Herbert has time to throw. He finds QJ open for a splash play. The time to throw element of that appears to have evaporated. Not Quentin Johnson's fault, but I do think he's falling out of fantasy lineups. Of note, Keenan Allen working his way back into fantasy lineups, coming off of what I believe was his highest route rate of the entire season, topped 80% last week, specifically a 24% target share in back-to-back games. Seems like part of their quick passing attack, maybe to cope with the loss of Joe Alt, to get Keenan Allen the ball a little more often than he was. He's kind of falling out of favor in the receiver mix. So he's playable. It's not a spot you want to be playing him in, but I think 2 or 3 weeks ago, I would have said like, oh, he's just a cut. Don't keep him on your roster. He's like a wide receiver 3 or 4 now.
I haven't ranked ahead of Quentin Johnson this week. Just kind of for every reason you laid out. I just don't think the long passes will be able to develop, and Keenan Allen is taking on greater importance. But we're going to witness something special. We're going to witness a road team, the Eagles, getting booed, but not by the home fans, by their own fans in the road stadium. This is going to be special. It's going to be 80% Eagles fans in this game. Not even kidding. By the way, why is the ring finger so weak, by the way? We got these 5 every other finger has power, except for the ring finger. Has absolutely no power. Denny.
It doesn't help when you put a ring on it. I thought mine would get stronger when I put a ring on it.
It makes me feel strong, I'll say. What is the state of this moribund Eagles offense, Denny?
Yeah, good word. And I don't, look, the rush yards before contact.
Saquon stinks. AJ stinks. Devontae stinks. Hurt stinks. Goddard, you better believe stinks.
They really should seriously consider abandoning the traditional run game. The rush yards before contact is gone. The explosive runs are gone. That's partly Saquon, but partly the offensive line falling apart. Jalen Hurts probably needs to be rushing more. I wouldn't be surprised if we saw that in the next few weeks. They've had to lean a little bit toward the pass, which they hate to do. I mean, they truly hate to do that, but no choice. And so you are going to have some pop-up games from Devontae or AJ Brown. You saw one last week from AJ Brown. I hope he's happy now for now at least. That could boost volume overall on a weekly basis for these guys to be able to get there. Maybe more than one of them can sort of kind of get there for fantasy. That's the hope anyway. But they cannot keep doing this Saquon thing. It's just not working.
It is not at all. The Chargers are elite against the pass. I think they're not quite as good against the run. So I don't know what we're going to see.
But that's the thing is I noticed that as well looking at this game, and the Eagles have not taken advantage of other soft matchups. I mean, look, the Bears allow the highest rate of rush yards before contact in the whole NFL.
Wow.
And they couldn't do anything against them.
They could not. Kyle, what do we expect from the Chargers backfield with Amari Hampton, we believe, returning from injured reserve?
I kind of think he takes over relatively quickly, and I will note specifically he was catching a lot of passes in his final 3 games before suffering his injury and going on IR. I believe it was at least 4 catches in 3 straight games, including the one he left early, which you would think if you only get half a game, probably not going to catch a lot of passes, but he was doing that. And that was something that we had talked about in the offseason, maybe being a function of this offense, this Harbaugh-Roman offense. They never really threw to running backs. If you had that into the mix, which it seems like they had done before he got hurt, there's a really strong floor. Maybe the floor is lower. I mean, it's almost certainly lower this week in his first game back. But I think if you just project him to get enough passing game work and just split the carries, he's in your starting lineups. It's not the highest he's going to be ranked over the rest of the season, but I think he's startable.
All right, where am I? All right, slowly getting healthier. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers are approaching 2-score favorites for their home date with the Saints. Denny, Bucky Irving was eased in from a snaps perspective last Sunday. Not at all from a workload perspective, though. 19 touches when he was on the field. He was getting the ball. As it all systems go, for Bucky as an RB1 for the final week of the fantasy regular season. Not a moment too soon, Bucky, except for in several of my leagues where it was far, 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 far too late.
Yeah, no, I mean, it is the Bucs talked a big game about we're going to be careful and whatnot. No, that wasn't the case. 17 carries for Bucky Irving last week, only 2 for Rachaad White. He got the start. Okay, well, yeah, good one. Bucs. That's excellent. You really got us. Sean Tucker, 2 rushes. I think the Bucs are going to try to be pretty conservative down the stretch to kind of protect an injured Baker. Baker, really bad this year. He's just been bad.
He has been.
He probably shouldn't be playing right now. In this game, I would guess that they'll do the bare minimum through the air and then try to do the rest on the ground. So look, I know as a Bucky Irving drafter in a lot of places, it's been rough. But if you were able to stay alive,
actually draft him that many of you.
you're the poster guy of Bucky Irving drafters.
I don't know why. What would give you that idea?
Yeah, it's mostly that you've said it 16 times.
Producer, roll the 19-minute clip we've assembled.
Yeah, roll the clip, Adam, for the rest of the show. Anyway, if you were able to hang on, this is it, man. This is it. You're going to get there. I promise. Sort of. I guess the same.
Pat, 9th place isn't going to know what hit him this week.
No, it's not. I'm telling this consolation bracket. This consolation bracket don't know what hit him.
Great. Who's going to stop this team?
Who stops this consolation bracket team? Nobody. Absolutely nobody. Kyle, one counterpoint to what Denny said about the Bucs maybe not trying to do too much through the air. What if Mike Evans is back? What's the state of this group? Mike Evans, it was a broken bone. The fact that he's practicing, to me, since it's not a ligament tear, since it wasn't a muscle pull, I feel like with a broken bone, once you're cleared to practice, you're probably a fairly good bet to play. But we don't know for sure if Mike Evans is going to play. But Jalen McMillan could also, in theory, return. Mm-hmm. What is going on with the Bucs receiver corps?
Yeah, it's a broken collarbone, I believe. They called it at most, I believe was their phrasing, right? At most 8 weeks, which still would have him out till I want to say it was like week 15. Was week 7, if I remember correctly. At most 8 weeks. Maybe he's ahead of schedule, and it would be really ahead of schedule for a broken collarbone. I don't know for sure he's been like cleared for contact yet. This might just be getting him.
It's quite possible he has not.
Yeah, my guess is with how quickly he's progressed in terms of like his expected timeline versus where we're at now, I kind of think he doesn't play this week. We've also seen the Bucs previously this year get burned by playing their players through injury. Specifically, Chris Godwin comes back and gets hurt, but also Emeka played through what was, I believe, a hamstring injury and like has been terrible ever since. I don't think all of that is the hamstring injury. I do think the first few weeks where he wasn't doing much was probably him not being at 100% health, but he is, I mean, I'm holding the faith. This is very much like almost a Bucky Irving level, like, whenever I get right, I'm going to destroy this consolation bracket. But the target share numbers for Emeka are just through the roof. Over the past month, which is them coming out of their bye, he's 6th in the NFL in target share, around 30%. Like, this is alpha, wide receiver 1 stuff. And he's the wide receiver 27 in PPR over the past month. Like, not even close to a top 24 fantasy wide receiver, despite looking like a true number 1 wideout. He's like the worst wide receiver over that stretch in fantasy points over expected. But like, his quarterback play has, like we talked about, Baker has notably regressed, especially over the past like 6 to 8 weeks. He had a good month or so to start the year, and it's kind of fallen apart since then. But I still believe talent-wise, his quarterback play is very good. I think talent-wise, Emeka, as an awesome target earner, looks very good. I'm going to keep playing him, and if I lose, which I've done a few times recently, I will continue to lose.
That Shaq Kobe meme of them, it's like a 30-second clip of them doing give and go dunks. And it's just Bucky Irving and Emeka Ibuka in consolation brackets, like the alley oop to Bucky, and they never saw it coming. Denny, we didn't see the Saints being one of the highest tempo teams in the league coming when your quarterbacks are Tyler Shuck and that other guy,
Spencer Rattler.
They're high tempo. They're running a lot of plays, but who are we actually starting in 12-team leagues? The play volume is not necessarily translating to fantasy points.
Yeah, right. And I actually wrote this game up for the matchup column that'll be up on Friday on Rotoworld because the Bucs are one of the most extreme pass funnels in the league. The Saints usually respond to that sort of thing and drop back at a slightly higher rate. The Saints, when they played the Bucs in week 8, and this is the Spencer Rattler meltdown game where he just got truck sticked by a defender who walked into the end zone for a touchdown.
That's right.
And then Shuck came in. So Rattler was benched after that. Obviously, you can't go on after that.
No.
So they were actually the Saints were 17% above their expected pass rate in that game. That's a little on the extreme side, but I do think we'll see plenty of dropbacks here for Shuck. I'm not saying you start Shuck. I am saying that Chris Olave, who's seen 44% of the team's air yards, 23% of the targets since Rashid Shaheed was shipped to Seattle. I'm saying he's a good play. I'm also saying Devon Vele, who I said some very mean things about last week. I said, I don't want to hear any more. I don't want to hear anything about Devon Vele. Stop. And he went on to catch 8 of 8 for 92 yards and a touchdown against the Dolphins. And I have never been more owned. So he's startable. I also want to mention the Bucs are soft against the slot. And Juwan Johnson, not Vele, is the primary slot guy for the Saints. You could do worse than Juwan Johnson.
Devon Vele, quote, put you on blast.
He did put me on blast. You didn't have to tell reporters after the game that you had listened to the Rotoworld.
Devon Vele, you didn't have to go so hard.
You didn't have to name me.
That was
it was
petty.
A little much.
That was petty.
You're giving out my home address, Devon.
Also very, very petty, although he just wanted people to go to the Christmas traditions in your backyard. I want people to stay with us when we take a short break. We'll be right back after this. It's a massive game on Sunday night in Week 14. The Texans head to Arrowhead Stadium for a showdown with Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs. Football night in America gets you ready for kickoff in Kansas City at 7 p.m. Eastern. In hand-to-hand combat for an AFC wildcard spot, the Chiefs and Texans meet up in Kansas City, with the home side favored by roughly a field goal. Sounds a little low to me, Kyle. What did we see from the Texans during C.J. Stroud's Week 13 return? And will this be a high attempts contest for Houston? Every time I say the spread seems low, I remember the Chiefs' entire offensive line is hurt. But what are we going to see from this Texans passing attack?
Yeah, it wasn't the best game of CJ Stroud's career last week in his first game back, but he did the one thing that had almost been, he hadn't done quite enough, which is why we for a second were like, maybe Davis Mills is better than him. Davis Mills was not good. We talked about this last week. Davis Mills was miles behind CJ Stroud and all the efficiency numbers, of which Stroud has actually done surprisingly well in, but he did a good job throwing to our favorite streaming tight end, Dalton Schultz, and our favorite somewhat struggling wide receiver one, Nico Collins. The good news is Nico Collins, a 30% target share this past week from CJ Stroud. Dalton Schultz, second on the team in targets. The Jayden Higgins role is slowly upticking. He's still only hovering around like a 60% target share. He's been in that like 15 to 20, 60% route rate. He's been in that 15 to 20% target share range over the past month or so. He's a very fringe play, and it's a low total game, but I do expect them as 3.5-point underdogs to have to pass. I've said it a few times, he's playable. We're at the point in the season where like, you're playing some of these guys, you're probably in the consolation bracket, but those still matter. It still matters to run stuff in the consolation bracket. And he's a rookie who's coming on late. So I still like him as a flex adjacent play.
I will say betting, gaming, if you will, has just become legal in the state of Missouri. And got a lot of like bonus bet stuff.
Oh, yeah.
So I don't want to become a bettor. No offense to the betting industry and like our own website and all that. It's just I don't want that for me. Yeah, I don't want that for me, but I'm already like, oh man, I'm gonna bet this. I gotta bet this. Like got all these bonus bets. Like I literally have to do it. I'm thinking about betting on the over on this game.
My skin's actually crawling right now with thinking about how you won't optimize the bonus bet. So like before you place,
I know. Can everyone, my friend here is like trying to explain all this to me. Like no, stop. I'm not signing up for the Sam's Club Sportsbook, all right? I'm sorry. I don't need $200 in bonus bets from Sam's Club, all right? Like, I'm sorry.
But think of what you could do with it.
I know. Don't get me. I'm going to do it, actually. Denny, did anything change for the Chiefs against the Dallas Cowboys on Thanksgiving, or is it just a good old-fashioned high-scoring matchup?
No, not much change. Same route participation, pretty similar targets per route run, all that stuff. I will say though, this is a really rough matchup for anybody. But the cheat code against Mahomes and the Chiefs has always been if you can pressure with 4 and drop 7 in coverage, then you can flummox the guy, right? Like you can really put him in a bind. That's exactly what the Texans do on a weekly basis. And they lost their left tackle. The Chiefs lost their left tackle to a wrist injury.
Well, certainly didn't lose the right tackle and their right guard, I believe, too.
Yes, that too. And then I wanted to mention that like nobody runs on the Chiefs, and
no.
I mentioned earlier that the Texans are just a crazy air yards producing offense. I really like this spot for Nico Collins. I really like it for Higgins. Maybe even like a guy like Dalton Schultz can get there with enough drop back volume, enough pushing it downfield. Anyway, you'd ask me about the Chiefs. I think you're starting your Chiefs. I think you can start Xavier Worthy as a second flex here. He saw an uptick in usage last week that maybe that means that they're going to try to make him a thing in this offense. They desperately want to. That's pretty clear.
Real quick, I signed up 200 in bonus bets from Circle K. Like I actually like the Circle K betting app a lot. Sub Pop Records for some reason has a betting app, $200. The Central Intelligence Agency. This is kind of a weird one. $500 in bonus bets. I'll take it. Yeah, I'll take it. Hey, Kyle, anything of note in either of these backfields, Kansas City or Houston, is the two teams we're talking about?
Honestly, I might have forgotten if you didn't remind me.
I know. Sorry. That is why I did that. Yeah.
Woody Marks, the takeover is fully complete, but he hasn't been particularly efficient this year. He wasn't an efficient runner in college. He is getting a lot of work on an offense that's they're not terrible, but they're not great, and they're not in a great spot. In fact, as Denny points out, they're in a pretty horrific spot. I'd be trying not to start him. I think even as a pseudo 3-down back, he's like barely in the RB2 ranks just because of how bad the spot is and how he's not talented enough to overcome a bad spot. Frankly, few running backs are because it's such a situation-dependent position. And in terms of the Chiefs, Kareem Hunt got almost all the work last week. It was 14 carries to Isaiah Pacheco's 3. We would assume that was in part because Isaiah Pacheco is coming back from injury, but that makes, in my notes, I wrote Isaiah Pacheco, it autocorrected to completely unpalatable, which works. I meant unplayable, but it's unpalatable too. You just can't play him. Maybe at some point when if he starts getting up to like a dozen carries in a game, which he was at earlier, he was the 1A earlier in the season, he becomes a flex play. He's not even on the menu right now.
Do either of you guys know how to use the Samsonite luggage app, by the way? $400 in bonus bets.
There you go.
Yeah, so I've got a lot of work to do after the show. 9, quote unquote, is returning for Minnesota. But I said we were unsure of Jayden Daniels' status for Washington. He's practicing in full on Thursday, Denny, so that's news. We are sure that Max Brosmer was a downgrade from J.J. McCarthy. But are we now in a situation where there's just no hope for this Vikings offense? 9, of course, is back to start against the Commanders. A very, very good matchup, it must be said, for a normal quarterback.
It's so good. Like any metric, that the Washington defense doesn't stop anybody on the ground. They're horrible through the air. They don't pressure the passer at a high rate. Like I'm trying not to say like if J.J. McCarthy can't do it here, he's not going to do it here. Okay, like just for fantasy purposes, he's not going to get it done. What we're hoping is that he can be a nice ball distributor to Justin Jefferson, maybe even like Jordan Addison. Who knows? Addison did see, I believe, 10 targets last time McCarthy played. So he's someone to monitor if you're desperate for a flex. But the matchup is way easier this week than it was last week against the Seahawks. I think that's pretty safe to say.
He's had a lot of bad matchups. He had some good ones that he did not do anything with either, though. The Bears, the Bengals. I know the Bengals, I think, was Carson Wentz, actually. It must be said, Justin Jefferson never had like a 0-point game with J.J. McCarthy. He kept a somewhat reasonable floor. At some point, he might spike a week with the young man. J.J. McCarthy, by the way, has officially cleared concussion protocol, so there's nothing standing between him and playing this game. It will be J.J. McCarthy under center. Kyle, what is the state of the Commanders' offense? Just a lot of moving parts, including at quarterback, where I guess it appears it'll be Jayden Daniels. About Terry McLaurin back, the running backs all over the place. Who can we actually start in 12-team league lineups for the Commandos?
Starting at wide receiver, Terry McLaurin was back, like capital B back last week, got 31% of the targets, 41% of the air yards. That is like monster wide receiver 1 type of usage. I don't expect that level of usage to hold because Deebo Samuel's usage in turn dropped well below a 20% target share. I think those probably even out a little bit, but Terry McLaurin coming out and doing that in terms of earning the ball, high leverage spots downfield a lot, and then cashing in on them with, I think it was like 7 for 90 something and a touchdown, his best game of the year by far, tells me he's as healthy as we could possibly expect, possibly hope for after mostly an injury loss season. He's very startable as like, I think a strong wide receiver 2 bet. Despite the quiet week last week, I still think Deebo Samuel's maybe in the wide receiver 3 mix. I think we should expect his targets to grow a little bit, especially just with Jayden Daniels being an overall boon for the offense, assuming he's back this week. Backfield it's narrowed essentially. I mean, they've all but phased out Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt. He got 12 snaps last week, 4 carries. He's a distant backup to Chris Rodriguez. And Chris Rodriguez, very playable in this spot. I mean, if we continue to get what we've gotten from J.J. McCarthy so far and Jayden Daniels plays, frankly, even if Jayden Daniels doesn't play, it just might not be a competitive game. And in a non-competitive game, the 2-down banger and Rodriguez has some RB3 value.
Denny, I said my prompt says quick rehash of what to expect from Jordan Mason, but Aaron Jones is actually like Aaron Jones you cannot keep this guy away from the field.
It's insane.
He's like Lazarus, except for shoulder injuries. He's not actually dying either. He's just hurting his shoulder. And
they just dip his shoulder in the Lazarus pit.
Yeah, it's a lot easier to come back from that. But
I covered that game last week, and if you would have asked me like, okay, what happens from here? I'd be like, rest of the season.
Well, you volunteered that information in Slack. I think you specifically said he was done for the year.
I did.
Yeah, you did.
And it turns out I'm not a doctor. It turns out that Aaron Jones rides on the ground for injuries that are not season ending.
He's a tough cookie, man. It feels like he misses so much time. And then you look at his game logs over the past few years, and it's like 1 game missed, 2 game missed. He just plays not always that well, but he does play through injury like crazy.
You know what he's going to do? I bet he's going to play with a harness where it's like he can't use his left hand.
Yeah, no, that's big facts there. I just saw the phrase big facts written by Adam about something else, but that is big facts.
I like that one. I think I'm going to use that one right now.
That's true. Would you have anything to say about this? The Vikings running backs. You have anything to say?
And you're going to do your job now?
I mean, if Aaron Jones plays, you should probably think about playing him. If not, then Jordan Mason becomes a touchdown-dependent RB3. Xavier Scott is the pass-catching back.
I keep trying to think of fake sports books.
Xavier Scott could go goblin mode.
Wow. All right. We need to move on.
I'm kidding.
I'm trying to update the CVS Sportsbook on my phone. Just keep talking. Trying to keep one of the season's more improbable winning streaks alive, Kyle Dvorchak. The Dolphins visit the Jets as narrow road favorites. Is it safe to say Tyrod Taylor is doing exactly what we hope for as fantasy managers, throwing more passes and directing them to players we want? Tyrod, by the way, has made 3 starts. Justin Fields has made 9. Tyrod already has as many 30 attempt starts as Justin Fields. 2, only 2. But
so good.
Are we getting what we expected and wanted from Tyrod Taylor?
Yeah, I'd say that's a fair way to put it. He's not a great real-life quarterback, but in terms of what he brings to the table for our fantasy lineups, it makes Adonai Mitchell and even John Mechie extremely viable fantasy plays. This year, we have a 60% accurate throw rate from Tyrod Taylor, only 59%, so not a huge difference for Justin Fields, but Tyrod Taylor is doing it at like nearly 2 ADOT higher, which is to say he's more accurate while giving us more valuable throws. And the team, as you pointed out with the attempts, trusts him to throw the football a whole lot more. Even throwing out the games Justin Fields left early, which I think is fair to do, Fields has averaged 178 air yards, not actual yards, air yards this year. Tyrod Taylor is up just below 260. So you just get so much more fantasy potential when you have Tyrod under center. I don't think it makes the offense all that much better. It's a bit of a Jacoby Brissett situation, but like fantasy and bio, we want Tyrod Taylor and we're getting it.
And we do. And Adonai Mitchell, crazy. Like it feels point chasey, but it's a good matchup with the Dolphins. I feel like Adonai Mitchell needs to be in most 12-team league lineups this week. He's a volatile wide receiver 3. You have to understand the volatility.
Yeah.
I feel like Adonai Mitchell needs to be in most lineups. Even John Mechie is frankly almost pushing for wide receiver 3 value, much more of a wide receiver 4. That's where I have him ranked, but the volume just feels more dependable. The Dolphins are a good matchup. So, Denny, the Dolphins not a good offense anymore. What is the state of this? Tua, he kind of revived for a little bit. Now he's just back into like, I can't even watch this mode.
Yeah, I mean, they're not even trying to throw the ball anymore. Dolphins have a 43% neutral pass rate since week 10. Only the Jets have a lower rate over that time, but Kyle obviously is right about Tyrod being way better for these pass catchers than Justin Fields. Anyway, I mean, you literally cannot start Tua.
No.
I mean, even in Superflex, you should probably be looking for another option. And so Achane can get there based on the volume that he sees. Maybe Waddle can, but like, please don't get like crazy with Darren Waller. I know people love Darren Waller because it reminds them of when they were young, but we're talking 4 targets for this guy this week.
And
so
he scores a touchdown in all 3 of them.
Yeah, no, I mean, he's going to, yeah. So I know that's the argument is, he'll score a touchdown. But like I mentioned Juwan Johnson earlier, I think he has a much better chance to get there for fantasy than Darren Waller.
I live in St. Charles County, Missouri. The St. Charles County Historical Society app, also a sports book. They are giving out bonus cash like you have never seen in your entire life.
This is ridiculous.
I have to stop. Kyle, we haven't said Breece Hall's name for a while. Is there anything to say about him? Isaiah Davis seems to have retired. I don't know what happened to him, but he's not getting the football.
He moonlights as a third down back, but otherwise he doesn't play very much. We are coming off of a season high in snap share and a season high in carry share for Breece Hall. He's seen at least half the routes 3 weeks in a row, which isn't to say he plays every single snap. He's not quite at the CMC pass catching role specifically, but he gets all the carries, gets a decent amount of the routes, and the offense has stabilized. They're not great, right? They're not even that good, but they've stabilized under Tyrod Taylor. Like you said, don't really need to talk about him, but obviously I still think in this spot, he's probably on that RB1 border.
Just seemed polite to say the young man's name. Crashing out as hard as any team in recent memory, Denny. The Raiders host the Broncos, who some of us may or may not need to win this week. As touchdown plus home dogs. Any hopeful notes at all on the Raiders? And, of course, why is the answer no?
Yeah, no. I mean, look, Genty is like the preeminent PPR scam in the game right now. 8 targets in three straight games for Genty. So you're going to get that here. I mean, it's all they got. Like it's him and Bowers and then Trey Tucker running wind sprints right now. So you know how this is going to go. Geno melted down the last time he played Denver, 3.7 adjusted yards per attempt, had the lowest dropback EPA of that week, was 7% below his expected completion rate against the Broncos. It just profiles as a disaster spot for him. As for Bowers, Denver's allowing 8.5 targets per game to tight ends. That's the fifth highest in the league. But Bowers was absolutely just shut down by the Broncos last time. Like they were like, okay, we're going to take away your only good player, and good luck. So if that happens again, Bowers is going to be in a world of hurt for fantasy.
Kyle, is this a good enough matchup to start Bo Nix? I mean, Raiders about as good as a matchup as it gets right now, but weird game environment, though. Excuse me. And how high? It was too high for RJ Harvey, who was the RB2 overall last week, but extremely touchdown dependent. Snap share was below 50. And, it didn't get as many carries as we would like. I'll fact check that for you. But tell us about Bo Nix. Tell us about RJ Harvey.
You don't need to fact check it. You had my notes in front of you. As far as RJ Harvey goes, let me see. Let me put on my binoculars here. Snap share below 50. It
was still the second highest of the year. So,
Not really. That doesn't feel great, honestly. Also got under 30% of the routes. That role, once again, was reclaimed by Tyler.
This was also coming out of their bye, which means...
I know. It felt very strange to do
very
that
intentional.
coming out of the bye. The good news, like you said, he still was the team's lead back, specifically between tackles. He dominated between the tackles work. He also got the short down distance, the goal line type of work. So you're telling me in a spot where they're 7.5-point favorites against a completely defeated Raiders team, this is a spot where you probably don't need the passing downs, which I don't think we have, but we don't need them. He's still very clearly in the RB2 ranks, a little more volatile, touchdown dependent. But look, touchdown dependent against the Raiders. You're probably going to find the end zone once. It's a decent matchup for Bo Nix. The Raiders haven't been like a bottom feeder defense in terms of EPA per play allowed, but their opponents run a decent amount of plays because they can't sustain drives. Their opponents are above average efficiency-wise. The Raiders still a bad defense. So Bo Nix is playable here, but I wouldn't surprise me if we just don't get a lot of volume because the Raiders just can't put up a fight.
Is there any chance, Kyle, do we need to revisit our pick?
No.
Broncos can lose this.
Why are you so nervous
Dude,
about
it's Bo Nix. That's why.
Why are you so nervous about this as we just got a nail biter? The nail biter
literally took it to the final play to beat the Commanders.
The not Jayden Daniels like Commanders to be specific.
Kyle,
all right, fair point.
No, you got to trust the books. You got to trust your Sheets sports book. They have them as 7.5 point favorites. I love Sheets.
Oh, Wawa's got to get one soon.
You guys got a Buc-ee's there. I think
the quick trip.
Missouri.
Quick trip. I've been hearing has been just going crazy with the matching.
Good bonuses there too. Yeah. So and all of them have the Raiders as massive favorites. So if you happen to be in a survivor pool where you're deep in your survivor pool and you still have, I said Raiders, you still have the Raiders massive underdogs. If you still have the Broncos available, you got to trust them, I think.
I'm going to. We do not trust the Cleveland Browns and Tennessee Titans to give us a good football game. First off, how's every Browns game at home? I feel like they've had 14 straight home games, 33.5 game total. I call it in the game the world forgot. That's the setup. I don't know. Anything nice to say about the Cleveland Browns, Kyle? Anything nice at all to say about worst game of the year? Maybe the worst game we'll see in some time.
Yeah, I can't even think of a game that would be worse. No, Harold Fannin, full-time starter, 93% route rate, which would not just be his season high, but it'd be like the season high for a lot of players. Like they do not take him off the field anymore. If last week is any indication, 22% target share is strong. It's not elite, right? I still think he's more in that volume-based tight end 11, 12, 13 range. But the fact that he now runs every single route means you can much more confidently put him in as a bottom-tier tight end 1 as opposed to that top-tier tight end 2. With that being said, Njoku fully relegated to backup duties last week. Quinshon Judkins, of note, got a 13% target share last week, tied his season high. It was in a game which Dylan Sampson left early. Didn't practice Wednesday. Don't know if he was out there on Thursday. I don't think you honestly, again, need the passing downs work because whether or not the Browns win or lose, this game is going to be run heavy and low scoring because neither team wants to see their quarterback throw the football. And even if the Titans do, they'll probably just get destroyed by Myles Garrett. So you're getting all the work. You're getting goal line wildcat packages for Quinshon Judkins. Now maybe there's a little more upside in terms of catching. It used to be 0 to 1 passes, maybe in that 2 to 3 range. Outside of that, those are the guys you start. I'm not messing around with Judy, Tillman, Bond, or anyone else.
Denny, anything nice to say about the Tennessee Titans?
Gunnar Helm is a guy who plays for them. He's a tight end. He's my new favorite Titans. He's been targeted on 33% of his routes over the past 2 weeks. Last week, he ran 52% of the routes and saw a team high 6 receptions. Could get crazy this week. Could get 6 to 7 receptions. Who knows? Anyway, if you're desperate in a 16-team league.
I don't know. I guess we're over. I was trying to think of more sports books that I could bet with.
Yeah.
Thought this one was a bit of a conflict of interest. The owner of the Cleveland Browns, Jimmy Haslam, also owns Pilot Flying J, and they've got some sick deals. They've got some real sick, like basically dumb not to take these bonus books. Timothy Chalamet, by the way, has his own sports book. I don't know. It's just called I don't know if it's a front. It's just called the Timothy Chalamet sports.
He's
book.
Sending lookalikes around the country and knocking on people's door and asking if they want a $300 bonus.
Oh yeah, he gave me $300 in bonus cash. Like
I had to go get an eye exam, and Warby Parker has a sports book. If you can see, you can play, is what they told me, which I can when I put the glasses on.
Oh. Boy, yeah, I've got so much work to do tonight, but I feel well prepared after listening to this show. We hope our listeners feel well prepared. If you somehow do not, check out Kyle's waiver wire column. Still some actionable information even after waivers run. Check out his 10 stats, his start 'em, sit 'em. On Friday, Denny, of course, has the regression files live. The funnel report might be live by the time you're listening to this on Friday. My rankings are out there. They'll be updated constantly. We'll break down then the entire slate on Sunday evening. Tell you what happened on Sunday afternoon and what it means heading into week 15, the first week of the fantasy playoffs. So for Denny Carter, Kyle Dvorchak, I'm Patrick Daugherty. We really appreciate you guys listening, guys and gals, and we'll talk to you next week.